What would happen if you yearned for closeness and sought to release some tension, only to have your younger brother unexpectedly enter your room and witness the moment? Now you shall discover what I undertook. Sophie is the name I go by. At the age of 22, I found myself swept up in a whirlwind of events that unfolded just a few weeks back during my return home for fall break. After more than 2 years away, immersed in my studies on a distant continent, the stars finally aligned, and I secured a ticket back home. The experience was profoundly emotional with my parents, an overwhelming sensation of returning home after such an extended absence. Then Caleb made his entrance. Caleb is my younger sibling. Having shared our formative years, we were perpetually in each other's company. He was slightly younger than I, a gangly, awkward youth in those days. In our younger days, he was almost like my shadow, perpetually trailing behind me. Yet now, as he entered, I hardly recognized him. The once skinny, timid boy had transformed into a tall, broad-shouldered man, exuding a quiet confidence that was unmistakable. He seemed to have emerged from the pages of a vibrant Instagram post, clad in a snug black shirt. I embraced him and I could sense a muscle in his back. Felt like a dream. Have you matured over the years? I exclaimed, drawing away, truly taken aback. He chuckled softly, his fingers idly running along the nape of his neck. Indeed, such occurrences are not uncommon. It wasn't merely his appearance. His scent was utterly captivating. Whether it was the scent of cologne or simply his presence, it took me by surprise. Throughout the evening, I found myself glancing his way, observing subtle details I had previously overlooked. His laughter resonated with a rich depth, while his eyes exuded a tranquil energy. It felt as though I was encountering a stranger, yet deep down, I had known him forever. Let me cut to the chase. On that initial evening home, following the warm embraces, the joyful exchanges, and the indulgence in my mother's renowned lasagna, I found myself utterly exhausted. The journey, stretching beyond 18 hours with its layovers and delays, had sapped every last bit of my energy. After we all exchanged our goodnights, I made my way upstairs to take a shower and then collapse in my old room. Allow me to present the matter at hand. My old room remained largely unchanged from the last time I saw it. My parents transformed sections of it into a guest room, yet they left behind my posters, my bookshelf brimming with young adult novels, and remnants of my high school days scattered about. It felt as though one had entered a vessel of bygone eras. Nostalgia enveloped me, yet all I craved was the solace of my bed, a retreat into oblivion. I stepped into the shower, allowing the steaming water to dissolve the tension clinging to me from the journey. A wave of tranquility washed over me, reminiscent of the first genuine moment of serenity I had experienced in weeks. After completing my tasks, I donned an oversized t-shirt, extinguished the lights, and nestled beneath the blankets in my room. The atmosphere was pleasantly cool, enveloped in a cozy embrace and wrapped in a serene silence. The sort of stillness that only the familiar embrace of your childhood home can provide. I can't quite pinpoint whether it was the jet lag, the weight of school dissipating, or perhaps the unexpected return of Caleb, who appeared as if he had stepped out of a dream. As I lay there in the dark, my thoughts began to drift, and I realized it had been an eternity since I had experienced any form of intimacy, a truly long stretch of time. Amidst the demands of schoolwork and the ebb and flow of life, I found myself lacking both the time and the energy to forge connections with others in that manner. I thought, why not carve out a moment for my own well-being? In that solitude, with the house enveloped in silence, it seemed like an ideal moment to unwind. I shut my eyes and allowed my hands to roam, gently gliding over my skin to begin. The feeling enveloped me, gentle and soothing, a means of rediscovering my own essence. My fingertips brushed against my lips, then glided to my neck, and I sensed a warmth blossoming within me. Yet my mind proved treacherous, as Caleb's face suddenly materialized in my thoughts unbidden. It wasn't something I had orchestrated, yet there he stood, his defined jawline, the tousled strands of hair that framed his face, and that understated confidence he exuded. Suddenly a warmth ignited in my chest, then cascaded lower, enveloping me like an uncontrollable blaze. I attempted to dismiss it, convincing myself that it was merely my mind playing tricks due to the years that had passed since I last saw him. Yet, the thought persisted, and the harder I fought to banish it, the more it intensified. I found myself envisioning him, noting the stark contrast in his appearance, and how his rich laughter now carried a certain sharpness. I envisioned the warmth of his embrace from earlier, the strength that radiated beneath my fingertips, and before I realized it, I surrendered to the thought. I allowed it to enter. I let my fingers glide downward, I surrendered to the enveloping warmth that was steadily growing around me. My breath began to shift, becoming shallow and rapid as I descended further into the experience. The room enveloped me in an even deeper silence, as if the entire universe had slipped into oblivion, leaving only me and the surging emotion within. And then there he was once more, haunting my thoughts. Caleb, this time I let it unfold without interference. I envisioned his hands, firm and confident, gliding over my skin, his voice a soft murmur, playfully uttering my name. It was so vivid, as if he were right there beside me, and I found myself irresistibly drawn into the fantasy. My body responded immediately, mirroring the movement of my fingers, the graceful arch of my form. It all pulsed with an electric energy. Every nerve in my body thrummed with vitality, and the warmth I had sensed before transformed into an undeniable force. It was an exquisite blend of comfort and thrill, as if I were embarking on a fresh journey, yet simultaneously, and I must emphasize, it transcended the physical realm. There was an emotional depth to it as well. Perhaps it was the undeniable influence Caleb had on my formative years. Or perhaps it was the sheer astonishment of encountering him once more after such a lengthy absence, appearing and behaving like an entirely transformed individual. Whatever it may have been, it exuded a sense of power. I allowed myself to be swept away, fully embracing the present. My hands danced with newfound assurance while my breath deepened and quickened. Caleb's figure in my mind sharpened, his hands resting on my waist, his lips grazing my ear. It was undoubtedly forbidden. This was Caleb, the boy I once babysat at the tender age of 14, and that only heightened the intensity of the moment. It seemed utterly misplaced, yet there was an undeniable pull, a magnetic force tethered to the echo of his laughter, the charming crinkle of his eyes. As he smiled, memories flooded back, yet they were now intertwined with an unfamiliar allure that left me at a loss for how to navigate it. The room lay shrouded in shadows, illuminated solely by the soft, flickering light of the street lamp filtering through my window. The atmosphere was dense, tinged with an electric quality, as I allowed my musings to plunge further into the abyss. Every touch ignited a cascade of shivers within me, and each thought of him quickened my heartbeat. Yet just as I became utterly immersed in the moment, a flicker of hesitation stirred within me. A faint whisper echoed in the recesses of my mind, questioning my actions. "What are you doing?" "This is Caleb." It felt like a splash of cold water. And for a fleeting moment, I paused, my eyes opened wide as I gazed up at the ceiling, attempting to decipher the emotions swirling within me. Yet, just as swiftly as the uncertainty arrived, it dissipated. I reassured myself that it was merely a fantasy, a means to escape the burdens of a long day, harmless without consequence. Indeed, I shut my eyes once more, surrendering to the enveloping warmth of that electric haze. With newfound determination, my fingers danced across the page, surrendering wholly to the embrace of imagination. In that moment, there was an absence of doubt, only the rhythm of my breath and the gentle embrace of the blanket surrounding me. And with Caleb's vivid image etched in my mind, I envisioned how his hands would feel, large and warm, yet bearing the rugged texture that comes from a life of physical exertion. His voice lingered in my thoughts, low and teasing, calling my name in a way that sent shivers up my spine. And those eyes, how could I forget them? A captivating blend of mischief and calm, as if he held secrets just out of reach. It felt forbidden, like I was stepping over an invisible line, yet that only heightened the intensity of it all. My body was completely attuned to the moment, my breath coming in heavy gasps, and I was on the brink of, well, you know. Then, without any forewarning, the door to my room burst open with a sudden force, a loud crash echoing as it slammed against the wall. Sophie Caleb's voice sliced through the air with the sharpness of a slap. I became completely still, my body tensed, and my mind momentarily shut down, leaving me lying there, paralyzed like a deer caught in the glare of oncoming headlights. Caleb stood there, his eyes widening in shock as he grasped the situation, and the silence that enveloped us was nothing short of deafening. In that instant, I witnessed the precise moment his mind grasped the reality of the situation. His jaw fell slack, his complexion flushed a vivid crimson, and he remained utterly still, transfixed. He didn't even attempt to avert his gaze. Instead, he stared, his mouth slightly agape, as if his very essence had short-circuited. Meanwhile, I lay there, feeling like a fool, not in a physical sense, but in a way that cut deeper, emotionally exposed, which somehow felt far more devastating. I found myself frozen, unable to utter a word, as if my mind had shut down, refusing to comprehend the reality before me. At last, after what seemed like an endless stretch of time, the cogs in my mind began to whir back into motion. "Caleb, what on earth is going on?" I shouted, my voice erupting far louder than I had meant, and he jolted back to reality, blinking rapidly. "I had no idea you left your door unlocked," he retorted, propping himself up and clutching a pillow to shield himself. Though I was completely attired, my heart raced, and not in a favorable manner any longer. Caleb's face remained a deep shade of crimson, yet a sly smirk crept into the corner of his mouth, and I swear I felt an overwhelming urge to hurl something his way. "You might want to hang a sign or something," he suggested, retreating from the room with his hands raised as if yielding. "Just saying." Then the little fool erupted into a hearty laugh, as if he hadn't just stumbled upon the most mortifying moment of my existence. He shut the door with a soft click, and I could hear the sound of his footsteps echoing down the stairs, his laughter trailing behind him like a fleeting shadow. I sat there, utterly stunned, my cheeks aflame, my heart racing, yearning to retreat into a dark corner and vanish. Yet, to my astonishment, I found that the entire experience had impacted me in an unexpected way. As I replayed the scene in my mind, I couldn't shake the image of his face at that moment, frozen, eyes wide, mouth agape, etched into my memory. Rather than feeling humiliated, a strange spark ignited within me, as if he had seen me not just in a physical sense, but in that raw, unguarded moment. As much as I loathed to acknowledge it, that realization only intensified my desire. The embarrassment lingered, undeniably present, yet it intertwined with an exhilarating thrill that I found impossible to dispel. My mind continually returned to him, poised in the doorway, his expression transforming from disbelief to a playful delight. The tension that had simmered between us reached a boiling point, leaving no room for retreat. I attempted to brush it aside, to concentrate on anything else, yet it proved futile. The vision of him standing there was etched into my mind, and with each recollection, that flicker transformed into an all-consuming blaze. For the next few hours, I found myself wandering restlessly around my room, seeking solace and clarity amidst the turmoil of my emotions. Yet, with each passing moment of reflection, it became increasingly evident that a shift had occurred within me. This transcended mere attraction, it had become all about him. Caleb, the boy from my childhood, the one who had a knack for getting under my skin, the companion I hadn't crossed paths with in ages. I could no longer ignore the truth. I desired him, and not merely as a fleeting notion, I truly wanted him. Throughout the entirety of the following day, my mind was consumed by the events that had unfolded. No matter what I did, the embarrassment faded into the background. Instead, a thrilling sensation took its place. Caleb, in stark contrast, seemed to carry on as if nothing had transpired. He seemed utterly ordinary, sharing laughs over breakfast, casually scrolling through his phone as my mom excitedly discussed a new recipe she was eager to experiment with. It seemed as though the entire situation didn't even affect him. As I sat there, I struggled to meet anyone's gaze, a sense of impending combustion simmering within me. Throughout the day, I found myself skillfully evading his presence, a task made all the more challenging by the confines of our modest dwelling. I assisted my mother with the laundry, attended to a few emails that required my attention, and sought to immerse myself in a book I had long intended to complete. Yet, regardless of my efforts, my thoughts continually wandered back to him. Later in the afternoon, my father summoned me into the living room. My mom and he were perched on the couch, their expressions hinting at the impending revelation that we were set to venture out tonight. My father mentioned that my grandparents require assistance with a few matters, so we are heading over to their place. We may linger into the evening, yet we shall return at the break of dawn. Shall we commemorate your return in style tomorrow? Very well. I nodded, attempting to maintain an air of composure while my heart raced uncontrollably. Caleb sat on the floor, distant yet absorbed, his fingers idly turning the pages of a magazine. My father called out to him, "Next, Caleb, you're in charge while we're away." "Very well, let's ensure the house remains intact." Caleb lifted his gaze and smiled, offering no guarantees, yet expressing his intent to make an effort. My mother chuckled, and they began to gather their belongings in preparation to leave. In a mere span of 10 minutes, tranquility enveloped the house once more. Only Caleb and I remained. Initially, I attempted to maintain an air of nonchalance. I remained in my room, idly scrolling through my phone, all the while feigning ignorance to the acute awareness I had of every sound he produced. The sound of his movements drifted up from downstairs, the gentle clink of dishes as he retrieved something from the kitchen, accompanied by the soft hum of the TV as he settled in to watch. Yet, as I lingered in that space, a growing restlessness began to stir within me. The memories of last night lingered vividly, my body thrumming with a palpable tension, and truthfully, I craved more. A switch had seemingly flipped within me. I found myself lost in the moment, oblivious to the potential pitfalls or the looming specter of awkwardness that could arise. All I knew was that I desired him, and I refused to allow myself to overanalyze it this time. As darkness enveloped the surroundings and the house fell into a hushed stillness, save for the distant murmur of the television below, I reached a breaking point. It was then that I decided to act. I quietly emerged from my sanctuary, my footsteps soft as I glided down the corridor toward Caleb's chamber. The door stood slightly ajar, and as I dared to peek inside, I found him sprawled on his bed, deep in slumber. He lay on his side, his back turned to the door, one arm nestled beneath his pillow. For a brief moment, I found myself pausing. My heart raced fiercely as if it might stir him from his slumber. Yet, as I lingered in that moment, an overwhelming wave of courage, or perhaps a hint of recklessness, began to envelop me. I entered, gently shutting the door behind me with a soft click. The room was shrouded in shadows, illuminated solely by the soft glow of his desk lamp. The sound of his slow, steady breathing reached my ears, causing my own breath to falter. With great care, I ascended the bed and settled beside him, my body thrumming with anticipation, yet I found myself unable to resist. I mirrored his position, lying on my side with my back to him, so near that I could sense the warmth emanating from his body. For a fleeting moment, I simply reclined, allowing the tension to swell around me. The silence, the calm, it was utterly mesmerizing. My thoughts were a whirlwind, yet my body was resolute in its desires. I began to stir, subtly inching nearer to him. As my hand lightly grazed his, he shifted slightly in slumber, yet remained undisturbed. My heart raced, lodged firmly in my throat, yet I pressed on. Then he stirred, his eyes fluttering open gradually, blinking as he struggled to comprehend the scene before him upon catching sight of me. His expression shifted from drowsy bewilderment to sheer astonishment. "Sophie, what occupies your time at this moment?" His voice emerged, rough and gravelly, a testament to the remnants of sleep clinging to him. Initially, I remained silent, simply extending my hand to grasp his, guiding it to rest against my waist. His hand radiated warmth and strength, and for a fleeting moment, he stood still, gazing at me as if he were in disbelief over the unfolding events. "It's your fault," I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper, for entering my room unannounced. He gazed at me, his face a tapestry of bewilderment intertwined with an elusive emotion, one that danced just beyond my grasp, yet gradually he began to ease into calmness. His hand glided effortlessly along my side, and I witnessed the instant he surrendered. For a fleeting instant, the world seemed to blur, Caleb's hand lingering above me, hesitant and trembling. Even I sensed the uncertainty in his touch, a palpable nervous energy that arises when one treads upon entirely unfamiliar ground. His palm lay softly, fingers quivering ever so slightly. Initially, I found myself questioning whether he would actually follow through with it. He regarded me with a blend of bewilderment, trepidation, and intrigue. I could observe the gears shifting in his mind, likely contemplating whether to flee, dismiss it with laughter, or embrace the unfolding moment. Truthfully, I struggled to maintain my composure. Yet then a change occurred. I offered him a subtle nod, conveying without words that it was all right, that I desired this, that he needn't dwell on it too much. The slightest hint of reassurance appeared to be precisely what he required. His hand began to shift with a tentative grace, as if he were probing the depths of uncertainty. His fingers brushed against my side, warm and steady, yet tinged with uncertainty. His face was a canvas of uncertainty, yet it bore the unmistakable mark of determination. He yearned to embark on this journey, even if the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, and somehow that only heightened the intensity of the experience. As his hand grazed my skin, a tremor of breath escaped my lips, unsteady and laden with unspoken emotions. It transcended mere physicality. It was the intensity of his effort, the palpable determination in his attempts to decipher my responses, to discern what ignited pleasure and what fell short. It possessed an undeniable rawness, a profound vulnerability that resonated deeply. I rested my hand upon his chest, sensing the gentle rhythm of his breath as it ebbed and flowed. His skin radiated warmth beneath my palm, and I could sense the subtle texture of muscle underneath. His chest was broad and solid, and I found myself drawn to the faint veins tracing along his arms, subtly highlighted in the dim light. Caleb's anxiety began to dissipate as he immersed himself further into the experience. His movements grew increasingly assured, more intentional. He had moved beyond mere clumsiness. He was observant, keenly attuned to my responses and adapting with finesse. Truthfully, he was excelling in his efforts. A faint smile crept onto my lips, despite the tension coiling within me like a spring ready to release. There was an undeniable charm in his approach, as if he were unearthing a completely fresh experience, pouring every ounce of his heart into the endeavor. It lacked perfection. Undoubtedly, there were instances when his lack of experience became apparent, moments when he hesitated or stumbled a bit. Yet, the dedication he displayed, the evident concentration on ensuring a positive experience for us both, compensated for any shortcomings. For me, it was an overwhelming sensation, and in the most delightful manner. Every sensation resonated, as if my entire being was harmonized with him. The atmosphere grew increasingly warm, the air dense, and an undeniable electric charge seemed to pulse between us. It exceeded all my expectations, a whirlwind of intensity that eclipsed anything I had experienced in ages. With every fleeting moment, Caleb's confidence blossomed, radiating with an undeniable energy. His movements grew increasingly fluid, imbued with a newfound certainty. I noticed the transformation within him. His fear began to dissolve, giving way to a newfound boldness, while I found myself completely immersed in the experience. It felt as though all else dissolved into nothingness. All the awkwardness, the hesitation, and the fear of what this might signify vanished completely. What truly mattered was him and the bond we were forging, the way we were entirely immersed in this moment. And then it occurred, that surge of unadulterated feeling that rendered me breathless. It surpassed anything I had ever encountered, its intensity magnified not only by the physical realm but also by the depths of emotion it stirred within me. It was in the gaze he directed toward me, the evident effort he was making, the shared experience of venturing into uncharted territory together. A tremulous laugh escaped my lips. My forehead resting against it reveals that you're more skilled at this than I had anticipated. I murmured playfully, my voice just a breath above silence. He smiled, a blend of satisfaction and ease illuminating his features. I never imagined I would make it through this ordeal. He confessed that his voice was equally soft. We shared a laugh, the tension between us melting away into a warmth, a lightness, and in that instant, I realized this was about more than just the events that had transpired. It revolved around him. Driven by an unspoken urge, I leaned in. It was not a sweeping, theatrical gesture. It unfolded with a quiet grace, a gradual pace. I sought to offer him an opportunity to retreat if he felt the need, yet he chose to remain steadfast. His gaze drifted to my lips, and that was the only motivation I required. Our lips brushed gently at first, as if to gauge the moment, warm and unexpectedly tender. There was a certain hesitance in his kiss, a lingering uncertainty about whether this was truly unfolding. Yet, as the seconds slipped past, that initial hesitance began to dissolve. He inclined his head ever so slightly, deepening the kiss with a touch more assurance, and I sensed that familiar wave of warm surge within me. There was something enigmatic about Caleb that eluded my understanding. Perhaps it was the allure of the forbidden, the sheer unpredictability of the situation, but every aspect of him in that instant was igniting a fire within me. His inexperience was palpable in the way his lips met mine, a tentative exploration that revealed his learning process with each hesitant movement. Yet this very uncertainty infused the moment with a certain authenticity that made it all the more enchanting. I resolved to seize the reins of my destiny. I nudged him softly, steering him until he reclined comfortably on the couch. For a fleeting moment, his eyes grew wide, yet he offered no resistance. I positioned myself atop him, straddling his waist, and a smile crept onto my face as I observed the expression in his eyes, half nervous, half in awe, as if he were struggling to grasp the reality of the moment. "Relax," I whispered, my fingers gliding over his chest. His shirt had slipped up just enough to expose a hint of toned skin and the delicate outline of his abs. I let my fingers glide along that line, sensing the tension of his muscles beneath my touch. He began to speak, but I silenced him with another kiss, this one more profound, more passionate. I sensed him ease under my touch, his hands cautiously finding their place on my hips. The kiss deepened, fueled by an insatiable desire, overflowing with fervor. My fingers wove through his hair, tugging gently, and I sensed him tremble beneath me. His hands gripped my hips, and for a fleeting moment, I pondered whether he would finally seize control. Yet he did not. He gazed up at me, utterly immersed in the moment, surrendering to my guidance, and truthfully I cherished it. There was an undeniable thrill in taking the reins, in leading him through this journey, and observing his reactions. Each hitch of his breath as I shifted or grazed my fingers along his skin was intoxicating. It was exhilarating to realize the power I held over him, a power that seemed to ignite a spark of confidence within him, prompting his hands to roam more freely, exploring with newfound curiosity. The transformation within him was palpable, as he began to shed his anxieties and embrace the present, and for me, it was nothing short of extraordinary. Each touch, each kiss, every subtle movement resonated with an intensity that felt almost electric. Uncertain if it was the allure of the forbidden, the rush of adrenaline, or simply the essence of him, I felt as though flames danced within me. Our kisses deepened, filled with an intensity that spoke of longing and urgency. His heartbeat pulsed against mine, a rapid rhythm echoing as we became enveloped in one another. I glided my fingers over his arms, sensing the power within, the way his muscles tensed beneath my caress. My desire for him was overwhelming, yet this complete nerd was unprepared. And in that instant I hesitated. Well, you know what I mean. So I lowered myself to his feet, knelt down, and proceeded with my actions. Here is a refined version that upholds a tone of respect and safety while capturing the closeness of how events transpired. It was akin to a dance, a choreography that was both strange and novel for us. As I shifted my stance, I observed the way his body reacted, as if he were encountering this kind of connection for the very first time. His movements were a blend of curiosity and hesitation, yet there lingered an unmistakable air of vulnerability. I lowered myself to the ground and knelt beside him, not in haste, but to ensure he felt at ease. The entire scene unfolded as if time had stretched, each second lingering, while a quiet trust began to blossom between us. There existed no preconceived notions, only a shared awareness that we were navigating this moment side by side, attuning ourselves to one another both physically and emotionally. His response appeared authentic, tinged with a hint of nervousness, yet deeply engaged in the moment. It was evident that this experience was uncharted territory for him, and I held that in high regard. I refrained from exerting any pressure. Instead, I let the moment evolve organically, free from any expectations on either side. In such moments, the physical aspect constitutes merely a fraction of the whole experience. What truly captured my attention was the way we conveyed our thoughts through our actions, consistently upholding respect for boundaries and fostering mutual understanding. As the final moments faded into silence, I rose to my feet, a lingering haze clouding my thoughts, and faced Caleb. Without a moment's hesitation, I inquired, "Are you a virgin?" He held my gaze, unwavering, and simply replied no, his voice calm. Yet there was an unspoken quality in his tone that caused me to hesitate, as if he were on the brink of revealing something more. I continued to gaze at him, and then he remarked, "All right, you caught me, sis." Initially, I failed to grasp the essence of his words, my mind ensnared in a web of my own reflections. As I stepped out of the room, a wave of understanding washed over me, a gradual awakening to the events that had just unfolded. A tumultuous blend of emotions enveloped me: confusion, guilt, and perhaps a hint of shame danced together in my mind. It was a tempest of emotions, vibrant and charged with an undeniable energy. It was an experience unlike any other, a depth of reality I had never encountered, not even with the finest companions I had known. The thought lingered, a persistent whisper suggesting perhaps I had overstepped, that I had ventured into territory best left untouched. Yet, as I revisited those moments in my mind, the sensations returned, vivid and undeniable. It was unlike anything ever experienced. That part was impossible to overlook, the sensation that everything was perfectly aligned in that moment. In the wake of it all, a wave of nausea washed over me, a deep remorse for what I had done to Caleb. Yet, amidst that turmoil, I couldn't shake the undeniable thrill of the experience. Was that satisfactory? Was it the right choice? I'm uncertain. I'm still in the process of unraveling it, to be honest, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Is guilt something I should embrace? I invite you to share your thoughts on this matter in the comments below.